Hello EuroPC fans, it's been a while since my last EuroPC video, that EuroPC that I had acquired beginning of December 2022 and which arrived completely dead here after about, I would say 100 hours of repair or so. I was finally able then to fire it up. And in my previous video I actually had it running, right, and it was all neatly together and assembled. Could even use the original keyboard, but you see that it is open and on the bench again, right, and unfortunately my keyboard wasn't meant to last, so more and more keys started to drop out, right, and upon closer inspection I realized that the foil connector, right, the flex connector of the keyboard, even though the membrane was still okay, had severe damage, right, and I was really unable to fix that. So unfortunately I currently don't have a real EuroPC keyboard. I actually tried to acquire a replacement spare keyboard from eBay, right, but the keyboard that I got then from Greece after 4 weeks, I was really looking forward to it, turned out to be in even a worse condition than the one I had. So my previous membrane had like 1 or 2 missing lines, right, but the one that I acquired had like 4 or 5 missing lines, so really a lot of dead keys. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is, this is my membrane, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a replacement for the keyboard, right? So I did scan this, and I'm going to make a keyboard PCB using KiCad, right? And so that's going to take a while, but I'm optimistic that this can be pulled off actually, right? Because I mean, it's not really a membrane keyboard, it's really only a contact keyboard, right? So this is the original keyboard, of course, and if you look at the keys, I mean, then they are just conductive rubber, right? So all you gotta do is replace the membrane with a PCB and the contacts will work, right? So yeah, I'm in the process of creating this PCB, and it should be available like in a month or so, and then I can finally put my machine back together. So you can see that in the meantime, I mean, I have a keyboard, and what I have here is a XT keyboard, right, connected to the EuroPC, and it's actually straightforward to connect the XT IBM PC XT keyboard to the EuroPC. You see that all you really got to do is, from the keyboard controller, what you got to do is you route these 2 lines that you see here, those 2 yellow lines. This is keyboard clock as well as keyboard data, right? And so you route this to a compatible IBM XT 5-DIN keyboard, right? And in my case, I even put in a neat DIN socket, right, in the EuroPC, so there's a perfect spot here. And this is the 5-pin XT DIN keyboard connector, and I also have a switch here. So with this switch I can actually then change between the internal keyboard, if it's ever going to be back again and working, right, and the external keyboard. So regarding the internal keyboard I already made preparations so that I can connect the new PCB based keyboard that I'm designing. So I replaced the flex cable connector with pin headers here already, and so I should be good to go, right? And then of course you can also see the other repairs that I had to do. Of course, I mean, everybody has to replace the real-time clock battery and that stuff, and repairs. Botch wires are underneath on the other surface, on the other side of the PCB, right? Can see those wires. And then, for example, I had to replace these chips here. This is just glue logic and bus drivers, right? Also here, the RAM decoder chips here, those 2 I had to replace, as well as the video 4774 LS244, right? And then of course I had to replace the keyboard controller with a Motorola reprogrammed keyboard controller, right? The 68705, as I mentioned in the previous video. yeah, in the meantime, I also have a Gotek floppy connected to the external floppy drive port, right? And making a cable is really just, you know, look up the pin connectors from the manual, right? And know, of course, the layout of the floppy connector, and then you can just connect the wires basically. So it's straightforward to make a Gotek floppy drive for the external floppy drive connector. Yeah, other little things I did. So what you see here is I actually have an ESA 8-bit ESA backplane extender, right? And in my extender, what you see is, and also what's currently on the screen, is actually not the VGA graphics output from the EuroPC. That would be that cable here, right? But it's actually VGA output. So I have a VGA graphics card. I also have a Adlib clone here, right? The next I have the IBM this XT-IDE CF, right? CF card based hard disk. Then I have 1 megabyte of RAM here, as well as an MPU401 clone for MIDI, right? And I have it has a Wave Blaster adapter connector, so I have a Yucatan FX in there, but it also has a MIDI standard MIDI output, right, port, so I can connect my sound canvas to that. And for now, of course, this backplane extender has to be powered, so you see power cables coming here, right? And those go actually to my Velleman self-made PSU, right? Because I don't have the original PSU. You can see that I have a connector there on the left, the Molex connector, which is coming out there, and this is then arriving here and powering the ESA expansion backplane extender, right? So the system actually runs now with 640 kilobytes, right? Even though it only has 512 on board, but due to the memory expansion, right, I can actually use 640 kilobytes. You can see this in the BIOS setup here, right? 640 kilobytes, and I also have 9.54 megahertz. And that even goes over the ISA cable that I created here for the backplane extender, right? And you can also see that I have the internal video card disabled. It shows that the special adapter is being used, right? And the internal video is disabled, so that's the VGA card, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's a very neat machine. I'm very happy that I got it into that state, and I'm looking forward to fixing the keyboard now and then put it back together, right? I mean, it's nice to have the option for the external keyboard, right? And of course I'm going to keep this, and I have a permanent solution here, right, with the DIN keyboard socket, right? But of course it's also nice to get the internal keyboard back. It turned out that I had to shield the cable, right? And I found a very nice basically, yeah, fabric-like fiberglass aluminum tape, right? And I simply glued this onto my self-made ISA extension cable, which is of course like 64 pins, wires or something like this, right? So it's a really large cable, and so this works perfectly, right? I can drive the bus at max CPU frequency 9.54 megahertz, and I really can recommend this cable, right? Before this I simply tried aluminum foil, but first of all this looks much neater, and secondly aluminum foil could only bring up the bus to 7.4 megahertz, so this cable is actually faster with that. Let me give you a quick demo of my extension card. So I have, for example, Planet X3 installed, and that also, last time I showed you this in Plantronics 16 color extended CGA mode, so to speak, right? This time I'm going to show you VGA Planet X3. And of course I have a hard disk now, as I said, the CF card based XT-IDE, right? And so let's fire that up. Planet X3, and then I can select, zoom in a bit. Now I can select the video mode, and this time I'm going to select, what do we have here? K for VGA mode Y, 256 colors accelerated, and then we are using general MIDI is G. Makes it a little bit louder. I still don't know how to play the game, but it's a fantastic demo. So I'm just listening to the sound from the MIDI card, MPU401, right? Yukutan General MIDI. Sounds pretty amazing. Alright, back to DOS. Another nice demo now that we have a VGA graphics card is the Fractal program, right? We can, for example, enjoy the Mandelbrot Fractal in 256 colors in low-res VGA and use color cycling, which is of course always a mesmerizing effect, right? So list the available video modes is at 6. And what we are going to select is the IBM 256 color MCGA mode here, quick and lots of colors, F3. Let's have a look. And I do believe we have color cycling with this one. Yes, indeed, right. So let me zoom in. I interrupted this computation, obviously. Let me zoom in one region here, which should be a little bit more interesting than the overview Mandelbrot. Okay, so I'm going to pause this for a bit, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. So while we are waiting for the Fractal to complete, it is interesting to check on the power consumption, right? So with all these cards plugged in and the CPU running at 9.54 megahertz, right? So the machine is consuming, what do we see here? It's actually 2.8 amps currently, right? So that's not too bad, and that's well within the limits of this Meanwell power supply, right? No problem, that can supply up to 4 amps. Alright, back to the Fractal, and we are waiting for it to complete. And there we are. After 5 minutes the Fractal is complete, and now we can turn on color cycling. Check that out. Ah, isn't that beautiful? I can also change the speed, I think, with plus and minus, right? Oh, it's actually arrow up and down, so that way I'm increasing the speed. It's really mesmerizing. I love color cycling. This is really a killer feature for the VGA card, right? Because you cannot do this with CGA, Plantronics, or EGA, so... And then I can also slow it down with arrow down, cursor key down. And using Enter you can actually change the sets as well. Isn't that beautiful? I love color cyclings. Alright, so this is all green and blue. Speed it up. I like the mixed color palettes better, glowing, mesmerizing. Okay, so what else can we demonstrate? Yeah, let me reset the machine. By the way, one more thing I forgot to tell. So given that I have not connected the reset line of the XT keyboard, and by the way, XT keyboard still send out a physical reset signal, right? So that has changed, I think, with the PS2 or 80 protocol. But if you want to then do a reset, I mean, you can do this by, in some cases, right? You can just do the reset chord and it works, I mean, as you hear, right? So it's actually resetting. But if the machine is really crashed and really hangs, then that won't work, right? Because then also the BIOS has crashed. And for that reason, I actually also have put in a physical reset button here. Just a push button here. And you hear that the machine is also doing a reset then. And this is really a hard reset and not a BIOS soft reset, because this basically goes to the base of the reset transistor, right? So all you got to do is pull basically down the base of T3 to ground, and that way you reset the machine, right? So the reset signal is really generated by the keyboard controller, right? And if you have the real keyboard connected, the Euro XT keyboard, then the keyboard controller is programmed in such a way that the reset chord will actually create a hardware reset, right? A physical reset signal over the T3 reset transistor. But you see, I don't have a reset line connected to my IBM XT keyboard, so even though the BIOS reset works in some cases with the chord, right? Simply over the data, basically, the BIOS recognizes the chord. In many cases it doesn't, and then you really need the physical reset key, right? There you go. So easy to put in and very useful in certain cases, because you don't need to power cycle the machine then. So next I want to show you my sound card, my Adlib clone. Alright, on to the Adlib clone. We already listened to the Yucatan from the MPU401 MIDI card, right, with a Wave Blaster port. So now I'm plugging the audio output into my Adlib clone. And so I guess we should listen to The Secret of Monkey Island, right? That's of course something that comes to mind if one thinks of Adlib music. Let's fire that up and enjoy some Adlib music. Isn't it nice? So smooth, so FM. Ha! Wonderful. Very soothing, very relaxing. I love that tune. By the way, the Adlib clone is from Texelec, as well as the 1MB card. The CF XT-IDE card is from Blue Lava Systems. And the MPU401 card is from a guy called... one moment. Leo Dallas. So currently he has still some available, he makes them in batches, right? But me being a MIDI nut, I really needed that. Yeah, so my whole setup, you know, isn't inexpensive, so it's kind of a pricey computer by now, and it's, you know, burning more and more money, because I expect that I will also have to spend like $100–200 now to pull off the PCB keyboard reproduction, right? But yeah, for me it's worth it. So I hope you enjoyed this little demo of my Euro PC and how it's coming along, right? So a lot of challenges, but a good project. Kept me busy since the beginning of December, and it was immense fun, you know, trying to figure out how to extend this machine with ISA cards, right? And I think that's the first Euro PC that ever got a external ISA backplane extender, right? And it works, so it's kind of a unique thing, I would say. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to finishing this in the next 1–2 months, and I'm going to make one more video when the machine is hopefully fully back together, right? Until then, guys, thanks for watching. See you then. Bye.